Chapter 8: The Tunnels That Breathe. The extractor moved. It slid along its sealing track with a hiss of pneumatics, dozens of spindly arms unfolding from its underside like insect legs. Needles glinted in the weak light, each tip dripping with dark, sluggish fluid. "Go!" Reggie's voice was sharp, cutting through the low, suffocating hum. They bolted across the grated walkway. Below, the rows of human cradles stretched into the dark, the tubes snaking into the pit like a web of black veins. Some of the faces below them twitched, eyes fluttering open just long enough to register fear before sliding back into that slack, half-living state. A metal arm lashed out from above, its needle tips stabbing into the grate just inches from Max's foot. He yanked his leg back and nearly lost his balance. Another arm swept low, slicing open Joss's jacket in a clean line across the back. He screamed, not from the cut, shallow, barely more than a scratch, but from the shock of feeling how fast the thing was. The extractor followed them with uncanny precision, tracking every movement, arms darting in calculated bursts meant to drive them toward the far wall. Then the wall opened. A hatch split wide, and two spider-like drones poured through, their black orbs catching the dim light. They moved in perfect sync, skittering over the grated floor and straight up the walls, their legs hooking into the concrete like claws into flesh. Reggie spotted a narrow maintenance catwalk branching off to the right. This way, they sprinted down it, the catwalk trembling under their weight. Below, the pit gave way to something worse, a massive vat, its surface hidden under a thick, red froth. Tubes descended into it from all sides, pumping steadily. Something under the surface shifted. Slowly, one of the spider drones leapt, landing on the catwalk ahead of them. Its body unfolded into segmented layers, revealing a circular saw where its underside had been. The high-pitched whine of the blade echoed through the chamber. Reggie didn't slow. He slammed into its shoulder first, knocking it sideways. It screeched, not like metal, but like something alive, and tumbled into the vat below. The froth closed over it instantly. The extractor's arms were closer now, sweeping at their backs, forcing them forward into another tunnel. This tunnel was narrower, the walls lined with those pulsing tubes they'd seen earlier in the sewers. But now they could see movement inside the liquid, shapes, fragments of pale limbs, strands of hair drifting by like weeds in a current. Joss gagged. "It's people. They're running us through the pipes." The hum behind them rose to a shriek. The extractor couldn't follow into the tunnel, but the other spider drone could. Its claws clicked against the concrete, gaining on them. Up ahead, the tunnel forked. One side descended sharply into darkness. The other climbed toward a faint glimmer of daylight. Without speaking, they chose the light. The incline grew steeper, the air colder. The hum receded, replaced by the drone's rapid scraping. Max risked a glance back. It was less than 20 feet away now, the black orb of its head locking onto him. They burst into a maintenance chamber lit by a hole in the ceiling. Snow filtered down in slow spirals, settling on the wet concrete. Reggie grabbed the rusted ladder. "Up, now!" Max scrambled up first, Joss behind him. The drone hit the base of the ladder and began climbing. Not awkwardly, but with the same fluid precision it used on walls. Reggie reached into his coat, pulled the last flare from his pocket, and struck it. The sudden burst of red light filled the chamber. He jammed it straight into the drone's head. The thing convulsed, legs flailing wildly, and dropped into the dark. Reggie climbed fast, emerging into the open air with his breath coming in clouds. They stood in the ruins of a snow-choked park, the skeletal remains of playground equipment jutting from the drifts. Behind them, the hole in the ground steamed faintly, as though the earth itself were exhaling. Max looked at Reggie. That thing, it wasn't just collecting, it was feeding the pipes. Reggie nodded grimly. Whatever's down there isn't just a machine. It's alive. Chapter 9, The Heart Below. Snow drifted between the skeletal trees, muted under the gray sky. The park was silent, save for the faint hum still rising from the red factory below. They didn't speak. Words would have broken the fragile calm. Reggie led them toward the edge of the ruins, following a cracked service road that curved into the heart of the abandoned city. The farther they went, the more the snow melted in patches, revealing dark, oily stains. Something in the air made them tense. Not cold, not wind, something alive. They found a manhole cover at the end of the street, one Reggie recognized from the hunter's trail. He pried it open with a crowbar and motioned them down. The ladder was slick with condensation. Max's flashlight illuminated the descent, a vertical shaft that went deeper than anything they'd seen before. A low, rhythmic thrum vibrated through the walls, growing stronger with each rung. When they reached the bottom, they stepped into a vast cavern. It was unlike any part of the city they'd explored. The walls pulsed, black and slick, as if the tunnel itself were a living muscle. Tubes, hundreds of them, fed into the floor, carrying that same thick, dark liquid. In the center of it all, coiled like a serpent of impossible scale, was the organism. It was enormous, pale, segmented, with dozens of appendages writhing like broken machinery fused to flesh. Its surface was slick, veined with glowing conduits of crimson fluid. Each pulse of its body sent shivers through the cavern, and each beat echoed like the city itself was alive. Muck swallowed heart. It's controlling the machines. Reggie didn't answer. He already knew. Every hunter, every drone, every extractor arm, feeding this thing, keeping alive. It wasn't just a factory. It was a heart, and beneath it, dozens of half-living bodies, their limbs connected to tubes for nourishment. Josh stepped back, eyes wide. It's eating them. All of them. A low rumble shook the cavern, and the appendages twitched. Some reached for the feeders, some for them. The organism wasn't aware yet, not fully, but it smelled their presence. Reggie grabbed a flare from his coat. We don't have much time. We need to cut the main conduit, stop the flow to it. Max followed, tracing one of the massive tubes that led into the center. The surface was warm and sticky, veins pulsing beneath his fingertips. A sudden movement above made him jump. A secondary machine, fused partially with the organism itself, descended like a black shadow. The boys worked together, slashing through the tube with the crowbar, hacking at the thick conduits while the organism writhed. Blood, dark, industrial, metallic, sprayed from the ruptured veins, coating them in a sheen of glistening horror. The cavern shook as the creature roared, not with sound, but with the vibrations of its massive, living body. Max fell, sliding across the slick floor. Josh screamed as one appendage lashed toward him, narrowly missing. Reggie shoved them both up and toward the ladder. The flow of liquid slowed. The appendages began thrashing wildly, as though the organism were panicked, uncoordinated without its feeders. They climbed. Above, the cavern collapsed partially, the snow from the park falling into the shaft like rain. The hum of the machines stuttered, then faded, until all that remained was the creature's low, guttural pulse echoing below. When they reached the surface, the city was quiet. Too quiet. The factory loomed in the distance, dark and lifeless, its machines frozen in place. The red factory's hum was gone. Josh sank to the snow, trembling. Did we kill it? Reggie shook his head. We didn't kill it. We just cut it off. It's still down there. It'll survive if it can get new feeders. Max looked back toward the dark ruins of the city, realizing something. This was far from over. The organism could rebuild, reprogram the hunters, resume feeding, and the city would never be safe. But for now, they were alive. They had survived. Chapter 10, Silence and Snow. The city was a graveyard. Buildings, hollowed out by time and neglect, loomed over the boys like jagged teeth. The snow fell steadily, covering the blood, the tracks, the remnants of the machines. The streets were empty, but the air thrummed faintly, a reminder that the thing beneath the city still lived. Reggie led the way, crowbar in hand, flashlight beam cutting through the falling flakes. Max followed, scanning every shadow. Josh trailed, shivering, his eyes darting nervously to every shattered window and darkened alley. Their path took them toward the outskirts, a long stretch of cracked pavement that used to be a main avenue. They paused briefly behind a toppled streetlight, listening. Nothing moved, but the snow-muffled sound, and the silence was too complete. A soft click made Max's blood run cold. One of the smaller drones emerged from a side alley, its black orb swiveling as it hovered a few inches above the ground. Its legs were folded beneath it, retracting like a predator waiting to strike. "Run!" Reggie hissed. They sprinted. Snow kicked up around their boots, the white flakes catching in their hair and eyelashes. The drone lunged, legs snapping, scraping the pavement. Max swerved, narrowly avoiding a blade-like appendage. Josh stumbled, and Reggie grabbed his arm, yanking him forward. The chase tore them through empty streets, over rubble, under collapsed overpasses. Occasionally, they glimpsed the shadow of the organism deep beneath the city, a ripple across the cracked asphalt, a vibration that made the snow tremble underfoot. The drone was relentless. They ducked into a ruined subway station, hoping the tunnels below might provide cover. But the smell of the pipes was overwhelming. The faint metallic tang of blood, the viscous residue of the creature's feeders. Something moved in the darkness. Dozens of limbs, thin and wiry, skittering along the walls and ceiling. The organism had sent extensions, smaller drones, to hunt them. Reggie kicked a loose grate. It clanged down into the subway pit, splashing into dark water. One of the spider-like drones shrieked and turned, giving them just enough time to bolt down a side tunnel. Muck's flashlight flickered. The tube they followed was narrow, water up to their knees. Joss whispered curses, trying to keep up. The drones skittered behind them, metal scraping wet concrete, but it slowed at the curve, unwilling to follow into the water. Finally, they emerged into the open once more. The outskirts. A frozen river stretched before them, cracked ice glinting in the dim sun. They had no idea if it would hold, but there was no other way. Reggie tested the ice with his foot. Solid. He led them across, one careful step at a time. The snow swallowed their tracks, erasing evidence of their passage. Max looked back toward the city, now a dark silhouette against the pale sky. "We survived," he said, voice trembling. Reggie shook his head. "We survived today. It's still down there, waiting." A low hum rose faintly from beneath the ice. Joss froze. It's alive. Down there. They didn't argue. There was nothing left to do but keep moving. The city behind them was a silent corpse, a frozen graveyard of human lives harvested, machines dormant, but the organism remained, patient, massive, and hungry. Snow fell harder. Silence swallowed the streets. And beneath the frozen city, something pulsed. Waiting, the boys kept walking, cold, exhausted, and drenched in fear, but alive. For now, the threat was unresolved. The city might one day rise again, alive, hungry, and unstoppable. But for this fleeting moment, they had escaped, and in the quiet, their breaths steamed in the winter air, the only sign that life still clung stubbornly to the ruins.